Hello, my name is Tracy, and I'm here to talk to you about second chances and our mission to place people with criminal convictions in employment. Why that's so important to the community and personally profound for me as well. As a child, I grew up with a mother afflicted with schizophrenia. That's not something I like to talk about often because I like to think of my mother as something more than just an illness. My mother was pioneering and independent, and even though she had this illness, I say that she was probably stronger than a lot of people who didn't have this affliction. My father was in the military and took job transfers, and so my brother and I moved a handful of times, and for that reason, we didn't have a stable support system or base, relatives close by. We had ourselves to count on and one another. I grew up moving quite a bit and was always the new kid getting picked on. I'm sure it didn't help that I was dyslexic and wasn't really prepared like a lot of other children were, I think in part because of my support system at home. And so I came to school with mismatched clothing, ratted up hair, stinking of several days' sweat, didn't brush my teeth because I just didn't know better. In time, I figured it out, but I didn't raise myself as best as I could. And then in addition to that, I had other more pressing concerns at the time. I'm sure I was quite angry and in many ways resentful because I felt like I had to be a mother to my mother myself. And so with that in mind, I had a pretty chaotic upbringing. And so when I was living on my own, I couldn't wait to get a new lease on life. And at 18, I was working as a cashier at a grocery store. And one night, I was pulled aside by loss prevention because I was told that $200 went missing from my cash drawer. I was really puzzled because I know that one of their policies was that cashiers would slip their cash drawer into a literal hole in the wall and not even witness the count by the cash office staff. And so I was never really sure what happened to that money, but I was pulled away into a room, and it seemed like we were in that room for I don't know how long, hours and hours. I was hungry, I was tired, and so when they demanded that I sign off on this sheet admitting guilt, I thought, no big deal. I'll sign it and we'll fix it later. I was scared, I was hungry, I was tired, and I wanted to talk to an adult, someone that could help me sort it out. That wasn't available to me. And so living on my own, my biggest concern was not about what happened to this money, but was I going to lose my job? Yeah, I was going to lose my job. I did lose my job. And so I was freaked out. I was trying to find another job with my little lemon car, living in this apartment that was run down. I had bigger concerns. I wasn't worried about this. They kept sending me letters asking me to pay back the money, and they were going to charge me interest. And they may or may not press charges. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna pay that, because if I pay that, that's like saying I'm guilty and you might press charges. I don't think so. So I didn't pay it back, and the amount got to around over $1,000. And sure enough, they did indict me. And because I signed that paper, I was advised that going to trial wasn't a good idea. So I pleaded out. I served my little time. Little did I know the worst was ahead of me. So when I first got out, a condition of probation and parole, among many, many others, that I think many people don't realize is to have a job. So I was scared to death. I thought, of course I need a job, but now it's even more intense. And so trying to work at a fast food restaurant or convenience store, people really wouldn't hire me to do that. I thought, if I can't get a job there, where am I going to get a job? At times, in the beginning, I did lie, and then I would get let go. So I learned my lesson pretty quick. Don't lie. Tell the truth. And I did. And then I would get door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slammed in my face every single time. And so, I made it work. I worked multiple jobs. I worked multiple jobs because I thought, you know what, if I lose one job, at least I have another. And I wanted to keep myself extra busy. I didn't want to be around any threat. Because if you had friends that so much as carried a joint in their pocket and you happen to be with them, you're going to prison. So I was like, I'm not going to have any kind of time for a social life. I'm just going to work, work, work. And with that, I decided to put myself through college. And I knew it was a risk. I thought no one's going to hire me for a convenience store. So how am I going to get a professional career? I thought, well, I got to take the risk. I got to do it, because if I don't, how else am I going to have this option? So I'd actually worked multiple jobs and went to school for nearly a decade. And even then, same thing had happened. I'd get a job. Jobs would be slow to do a background check. Even though I would put it on the application, they, I guess, overlooked it, making assumptions and thought, oh, I'm going to hire this girl. Then they would turn right back around when they get surprised with my background, which shouldn't have been a surprise because it was on my application. Let me go. And that would happen time after time. Same thing would happen in other situations. There would be a merger. I would put a few years in at an employer. They'd merge. Company A was cool with it. Company B was not. I'd get let go. And over again, I would get a job. They'd find out. And one of the worst cases was an employer where the pay was a direct deposit, and they reversed the direct deposit and sent me a paper check. So they caused me all kinds of overdrafts. It made no sense whatsoever. It was a job nightmare. And so I thought, how am I gonna pay for college? How am I gonna pay for my student loans? I can't even just hold a regular job. And during all that, I got married, and I really wanted to have children. I wanted to have this family, and a solid family like I never had. Well, in that marriage, it turned out that we couldn't have children. And so I thought, well, how am I I'll adopt, somebody that really needs a support system the same way that I needed a support system. And I could really be, a good role model and help this child in their upbringing. And someone had told me, hey, you can't adopt. You have a felony. That's not an option for you. I was devastated. I was very heartbroken. And so I decided that I'm going to attempt IVF, which is quite a bit more expensive than adoption and not guaranteed. So I went back to working multiple jobs. I participated in medical experiments. I donated eggs myself. I did every single thing I could to raise the money. And eventually the marriage didn't work out, and no children came from that marriage. And so, one thing that really bothers me about this is that children need a stable foundation. That's where it all started for me. And so when you think about children who come from generations of incarceration, they really just don't have a chance. And when you think about things like food and housing and people who authentically want to work, it really just made no sense. I thought the point of incarceration was meant to reform behavior, but really what this was looking like to me was lifelong punishment from employment. And this was getting passed on to children. I wasn't able to have children in that marriage, but I'm sure what if many other people do in those circumstances? And so then what? Then those children don't have a chance. And especially if their parents work extra hard, they're working multiple jobs, and then they have no parent around, just like the situations that I was experiencing. And how do communities thrive in that sort of situation? How does a community thrive when either parents go back because they can't gain employment, or they're having to utilize social services and can't do better beyond that? They're not empowered. They don't have camaraderie. They can't reach their goals. They have children who are ashamed. It just didn't really make any sense. And then to top it off, all it takes is one fell swoop of a tragedy to take down a person who already can't afford to live. And that was something I experienced quite a bit. And so I thought, I know that a person such as yourself wouldn't be here now listening to me speak if you didn't believe in the power and the loyalty and the support of families, of someone who doesn't believe in the future of children. I know just how important it is to both you and I that everyone in our community have, availability to options. And meanwhile, that our communities can thrive. Why would we not want our communities to thrive? Humanitarianly and, even resourcefulness and revenue, our communities should be thriving. And so at the end of the day, what's really important for the mission of Second Chances is important for our communities. Placing people in employment means that we close the gap of employment, especially as the largest percentage of our workers are heading towards retirement, that we underutilize social services and that people feel empowered. 50% of parolees and 60% of probationers are successful upon their release from incarceration. And of those, 85% return due to technical violations, such as not having a job. 1 in 4 people have some sort of background issue. And in the state of Kentucky, incarceration has increased by 600% in the past 30 years. And I think nationally, that's 500%. And so we have quite a few people incarcerated and, would rather be working, tax-paying individuals rather than incarcerated and not able to support their families. That doesn't sound like a very empowering community to me. And I can't wait to see our society thrive and our children grow up with the proper support and foundation that they need, and that even if they make mistakes, that their behavior is reformed and that they're not punished lifelong from employment. And so what I'm looking from you today is support in changing the culture, support in hiring people with convictions, and any major gift ask. We welcome any and all donations. Please check us out on our social media. Second, that's 2ND Chances. That's in Kentucky. You can check out our website. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. Help us empower our communities. It's time that we turn it around. And I look forward to leading these changes with you.